All right, what's going on, everybody? So, I want to talk about foreclosures and pre foreclosures. A member asked a question: can we stop the pre foreclosure and have the seller stay in the house? That is a tricky one. So, first, there's a couple things that I want to start with. When you're dealing with situations like this, you need to always be ethical. Remember that first and foremost, be fully transparent with the seller, be 100% ethical in the way that you're doing your deal, structuring your deal, 120%. So let's always remember that. We do not want to be those bad apples in the industry that give the rest of us good investors a bad name. So make sure you're doing everything correctly. So with that being said, it is a lot harder for them to stay in the house and you buy it, especially when you're wholesaling it. So let's put it in simple terms. So if I'm going to bring you a property and the seller's facing foreclosure and you're saying, hey, can you buy this property? And I need the seller to stay in there, but they're not even paying their mortgage, but they're going to pay you a rent. The likelihood of that is not really going to pan out. Sometimes you can walk them through doing a loan modification. You can help them postpone their foreclosure by doing creative things like filing bankruptcy, which will basically just put a band-aid on a gunshot wound. It's not going to solve the problem, but it will kind of give them time to figure things out, so to speak. So those are always options there. But when you're talking to the seller, you have to let them know that say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to stay in the property if I buy it. I could still buy the property from you, stop the foreclosure, put X amount of dollars in your pocket so that you can go and relocate, get a new start, get a fresh start. So you can have that type of conversation with them. But on a whole main thing or the bigger scale, it's a lot harder. I've done it once in almost 3 years. So that'll kind of show you how much of a challenge it can be. So there's always creative ways that you can do. It just might take being a little bit outside of the box in regards to making that deal happen. But for the most part, you're going to want them out before they go to closing. There's some situations also where they don't have money to move, right? So you'll have to close on the property and then give them 30 days to stay in the house until they go and find a new place. So when that happens, what I do with title or with escrow is I do what's called a holdback. So I'll say if they're going to get $20,000 at closing, I'll say, well, there's an $8,000 holdback that you'll get released to you once you move out and once the property's vacant. So what that would look like is we would go to closing, $12,000 would go into their bank account, and then whenever they vacated the property, then they would get the remaining balance. But not until I actually went and verified that the house was vacant. And there also needs to be a timeline on that. Don't just say whenever you get out. No, you have 21 days to get out. You have 14 days to get out. Whatever that number is, there always needs to be a deadline. And then secondly, when you're doing a holdback, you are going to want to make sure it's enough to make them want to get out. Okay. And always think worst case scenario. So let's just say you close on that house and you didn't do a holdback and you gave them a 30-day option period. Well, if they don't get out in that 30 days, now you actually have to evict them, even though you own the house and they haven't paid you any money. you still have to go through that eviction process, and that could literally cost you thousands of dollars. So it needs to be an amount significant enough to go through an eviction process in the event something crazy happens. So, and also, nobody's going to want to lose $5,000 to $10,000. And so if you put it in that perspective, like, hey, once you get out, you'll get the other $5,000, then they're pretty good at about meeting that deadline. I've extended it a couple of times, but they've still gotten out because nobody wants to lose that money. But I hope this is helpful. I feel like I'm just kind of rambling at this point, but I hope this gives you some good insight or guidance in regards with dealing with sellers and foreclosures. All right, take care.